So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to add details to these different boxes. These are the kinds of things that you would see on interiors and exteriors of buildings. And so we'll continue to kind of go through several of these different techniques to make doors and windows, openings, how to write lettering, checkerboard, circles, that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's start first with just boxes on boxes. So what you would do is if you were going to do something like a chimney or an extra addition on a roof, something like that, you might start with a simple rectangle. So let's go ahead and make this into like a chimney shape. So I did a small skinny rectangle. And if I wanted it to make it look like a chimney, I would see at least two sides of it. So I'd see the front of it, and then I'd see the side that's coming towards the vanishing point. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a diagonal line to the vanishing point, and then draw a vertical line down into the building. So this would be like a little chimney sticking up. And make sure this is actually going to my vanishing point, right? I can even make this look a little bit skinnier because as things get closer to the horizon, you can see that they get smaller. Can you see how this line right here is longer than this one, right? So as things get farther away, they get smaller and smaller to the point where we can't see them anymore, hence the vanishing point. Let's say we have an addition on the side here. Let's go ahead and add. I'm going to add this to the very bottom of this so it aligns up with it. So like maybe it's like another building or another addition, right? And so since I see the front of it, I'd see the underside of it. So I take it back to the vanishing point. My spiral's in the way a little bit, but that's okay. Let's have this one end early. So I'm going to use a horizontal line here to connect it back because this line right here is horizontal. This one back here will also be horizontal. If it's on the front and sticking out, we'd start once again with a rectangle. Then I take diagonals to the vanishing point. Oop, that went crooked. Let's fix this. So this needs to stay horizontal. Looks a little strange because it's above our horizon and we're not used to seeing things from this angle. This could be almost like we're a bird flying over a city. We'd see the top of the building. We could make this part look like it's coming through, so I could extend this from the top. So I'm lining here. Make that horizontal, and then I take it to the vanishing point. Now, one of the things you'll notice here is that as the details get closer and closer to the horizon, you start to see less of the bottom. Can you see here how this is a really thin slit, right? We barely see any of it, right? If this is horizontal, this back end is going to match up and be horizontal too, right? So now these look like it's a stick going right through there. I'm going to start with a rectangle again on this side, so we're adding it to all. I guess it's 5 sides here. Straighten that up. Look, I need to use the ruler. Boxes on boxes. Always start with a rectangle first, or I usually start with a rectangle first, I should say. And a lot of this guesswork of like what goes to the vanishing point and whatnot really does get helped by looking at a reference photo. So if you're outside drawing, you would see, oh, I see the front and I see the left side, or I see the bottom side. Okay, so there you go. These are boxes on boxes. And this would be if you had stacked boxes, if you had furniture, if you had extensions on a building, this is the same sort of technique that you'd use. Okay, so that's boxes on boxes. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and do another simple one. Let's go ahead and do a circle. We're gonna do a circle on this bottom one here. So circles or any other sort of shape that's symmetrical, one of the things that you want to do first is you want to find the middle. And so, of course, to find the middle of something, you could totally just find the measurements and divide by 2. But you might remember from other lessons, maybe in math class, the simplest way to find the middle of something is to draw a diagonal line. So I'm going to go ahead and on both sides of this, I'm going to go ahead and go corner to corner in my rectangle and find the center. Now, if yours is not squarish, it's more rectangular, this will work too. You'll just make an oval instead of a circle. So I'm going to do this on this side as well. Right, and so that finds you the middle. And then from there, I like to work from like a grid. So I'm going to go and use a vertical line here too, so I can use a cross. Right. And so if I were to do the same thing here, I'd have to take a line through the vanishing point, because notice these are all diagonal. So this would go diagonal to the vanishing point, right? And then this is horizontal, so this would be horizontal too. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause. Get caught up. And then from here, what I would do is I would go from corner to corner. So let's actually do a little bit of these like dots. So wherever this dot is, this is where the circle is going to hit. And so then you could lightly sketch in your circular shape. It's looking a little pointy there, so I can fix that. And then you do the same thing here. So whatever you have on the top, right, it would get kind of squashed because it's farther away, and then it would be larger, and you'd see more of it on the bottom half. Just want to make sure that you get rid of all the kind of pointy shapes. Okay, so that's just a circle, right, or any sort of shape. Let's try another shape. What if we did, and I can use my rulers for this, but I'm going to go ahead and freehand it. What if I had a triangle, right? So I do the same thing, find the middle. That way I can figure out the peak. And then if I had a triangle here, that's what a triangle would look like if it went back into space, right? Like maybe it's printed on the ground, right? And it's going back into the distance. Say we had a diamond shape. All right, the second half of the diamond would look smaller and smaller and smaller. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to move the letters over to this side, right? Because normally you would see lettering on a wall. And so I think it makes more sense to see it on the side rather than on the underside of something, unless you're in like Star Wars and it's the flying letters. So let's go ahead and make this one a little bit wider so that we can fit some letters in it. And just like we did with the graffiti, we want to give ourselves some guidelines first. So when we're doing text, we want to figure out where the top and the bottom of it. So I'm going to pretend that this is a wall. And so I don't want the letters to go from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to use some guidelines. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself the top line of it and the bottom line of it. And I would draw it really lightly so I can easily erase it. And let's do it on the side wall too. So remember when we do text, a lot of times we want to find the middle. So just like we did with the circle and the other shapes, we can go from corner to corner to find the middle. Now on the front side here, it's pretty easy to figure it out. But on the side, it might be a little bit more challenging. So I always do this just as a guide. So do it nice and light. Corner to corner, find the middle. Okay, and so that's going to let me know where the middle of my letters are going to be. So you can see on the second half, right, this letter is going to be bigger than this letter here. So you can do your initials if you like. So I'm going to go ahead and do J, M, you can use your ruler for these. You can freehand them. You want to do them as block letters because you never have like one line painted on a wall. Even in graffiti, it would have some width to it. Okay, notice how these 2 points hit the same part. So we'd want to make sure we did that over here too. So if this is the J, the top of the J is going to slant, right? And I'm going to make sure that there's a slight tilt here. So the stem of this has to angle to the vanishing point. It'd be really tiny here and skinny. So even the width of this J would be smaller than it was on the front. And I'm going to space in my M. So my M is going to be bigger than my J because it's closest to me. The tops of it angles to the vanishing point because it's on the side. So does the bottom. Okay, so notice once again how I had everything hitting the peak here. Here it would hit the peak too because that's where I just happened to make it line up perfectly with my horizon. That might not always work out for you. So you could always draw yourself guidelines to do that. You know, if I wanted to make sure that hit, I could tilt this on the side to make sure it hit too. So there you go with your lettering, right? Even with lettering, you want to make sure that things follow the rules of your vanishing point. So, you know, tilting things towards those vanishing points, knowing that things that are closest to you seem bigger and things that as they get farther away get smaller, smaller, and smaller. Okay, let's do the last of the simple ones and then we'll do a separate video for doors and openings. Let's go ahead and put a checkerboard on this building. This could also be for things like windows. So let's go ahead first and just kind of divide this up. I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm going to find the middle. So I'll divide it up into 4s. And then I could do it this way too. So find the middle and then force as well. And so if I were doing this on this side, all of these horizontal lines here would have to then go to my vanishing point. Okay, and then if I wanted to divide it into fours again, I could find the middle, right? Then I could find the middle and find the middle. But I'm going to actually show you what if it's not an even number. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make a tick mark here, and I want this tick mark to be closer than it is on the front. And then as these marks get closer and closer to the vanishing point, I want them to get closer and closer together, all right? So that it looks like it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then from there, I'm going to go straight down. To make a checkerboard. So a checkerboard could be for flooring, it could be for ceiling tiles, it could be for cinder block walls, it could be for glass windows on a skyscraper. Okay, so let's go ahead and pause there, and then we'll go ahead and do the last one, which is open doors and windows.